Hi friends, I would like to read a little bit more from Maurice Nicoll from the psychological commentaries on the teachings of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. Now, why am I doing this? I have been studying the fourth way system, fourth way teachings, as well as many other systems for the last 30 years. And I have found that this fourth way system is an accurate map how to get out of the prison of sleep, of being unconscious, of being caught in painful patterns, being lost in daydreaming, in churning fears and problems in the past, and kind of seeing through the illusion of separation. So I have verified a lot of this stuff, so that's why I'm passionate about it. I'm super grateful, and I would like to share with you all who are working with me or other people who may be working with me in the future. Also, what I appreciate about Maurice Nicoll is that although I know that he was a very deep, sophisticated mind, intellectual, mystic, and also clinically trained, having also studied with Jung, in spite of this sophistication, and I appreciate that he really uses simple words, like even strong, simple words. He will say, well, this is bad, and this is good, and this is bad, this is bad. So this is some strong words, but in this teaching, bad is all that which is taking us towards further sleep and unconsciousness and identification. And that which is good is that which is bringing us closer to our aim, closer to the present moment, closer to conscious awareness. Also, before I read, maybe some of you are not super familiar with some of these terms, so I just want to share briefly on that. He uses terms like chief feature. Chief feature is a specialized term in the fourth way, which refers to like a core mechanical pattern, a way in which we are periodically, frequently, chronically falling asleep in some kind of tendency which is mechanical, is developed in childhood, for imitation. It's a way we protected ourselves, or a way we avoided stuff, or try to get safety of love. So chief feature is that. Some example of it will this kind of inflated vanity, superiority, feeling that I know better, I am better, or could be the collapsed version of vanity in the form of self-pity, self-deprecation. Oh, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, nobody will love me, feeling like a victim, churning on this misery lane of being a victim, being mistreated. Some other example of chief feature would be, some people have this called super nice. They are super nice, but it is it's called mechanical goodness, where somehow I keep going against myself and I do what I don't want to do in order to please, in order to have other people see me that I'm good, that I'm kind. So in the guise of being nice and good, I totally go against myself, end up in a mess. Other examples of chief features would be this kind of manipulative power, kind of sneaky, trying to make things happen with non-integrity and things like that, or more like direct martial power, like micromanaging, being bossy, bulldozering over people, or the Saturn dominance, which is more like quiet, just for their presence somehow. Everybody knows they're the leader, trying to do what they think he wants, and this kind of quiet influencing of reality, controlling reality, having the ducks in a row. So these are some examples of chief features. We all have one or two or three of these. He also, some of the terms he uses that are more specialized are this inner considering. Inner considering is some kind of psychological, somatic dynamism where we are identified with what other people think about us, and we are trying to look good, and we are trying to avoid being judged, and we are very sensitive about what they think of us and how they look at us. Another example of some specialized terms would be this keeping accounts, which is pretty straightforward, but it's some kind of wrong work of the emotional center to remember when they did this to us and to have this resentment or withhold. I'm shunning them out of my heart, resentful, churning on it, taking them to mental court, judging them in our head. Now, the two chapters, I'm going to read two chapters. I'll just start with one chapter today. Both of them are on this, it's called the second body. This is very interesting and powerful idea. So I will share about this briefly. The second body is, this idea in this system is that as a result of our conscious struggle to be more aware, more present, less identified, to observe ourselves, to consciously struggle with these mechanical weaknesses and create this inner separation between myself as the observer and all of these phenomena and tendencies of Mihai. So for all of this work and all the work, what is called in the fourth way work, awakening work, through all of this conscious struggle and intentional suffering, which just this term, can would deserve a whole talk on that. I'm not going to do it now. But for this work of conscious struggle and intentional suffering, we start accumulating a certain finer substance, finer, subtler, alchemical substance. And as this accumulates more and more, the work becomes more alive in us, and we kind of activate and reignite and sober up, develop some kind of new inner psychological consciousness body. In the fourth way, the idea is that, we have this so-called astral body or so-called conscious soul. We all have it, but it's in dormancy. It's in dormancy, just like an acorn has the potentiality of growing into a big oak tree. Yeah, so the same way, but an acorn is not an oak tree. It's not yet an oak tree. I mean, it's very different. Yeah. However, in the seed of the acorn, in its DNA, there is the potentiality of becoming an oak tree. The same way, our astral body or soul, so to say, in other traditions, it's in dormancy. It's just like the oak tree, but now it's in the form of an acorn. So for our inner work, we are creating the right conditions and nutrients for the acorn to develop into an oak tree. And thus we develop another body, a subtler body, which is actually much more what we are as identity than the usual thoughts, feelings, or the physical body. And the theory in the system is that this second body, or the astral body, or Kashjian body, is, as Gurdjieff would call it, is the ability to consciously survive the death of the physical body and remain independent from it, preserving the sense of conscious identity, which is not the Mihai identity. The identity is not Mihai. Mihai is a character produced by the true identity. The true identity is that which is simply aware right now. All right, so let's go into it. So this is a psychological commentaries on the teaching of Gurdjieff and Uspensky by Maurice Nicoll, volume 3, written August 10th, 1946. A note on second body. To be happy, apart from outer circumstances, is a goal well worth striving for. Our happiness, such as we are, depends on outer conditions. The man who has reached a stage in which he has something independent of outer conditions, something which is independent of failure or success, cold or heat, discomfort or comfort, starvation or plenty, such a man has second body. What does it mean, second body? As we are, we only have one formed body, namely the physical body. But it is possible for a man to form another body within himself. This is one of the teachings of the work. This second body does not depend on the first body, but in fact can control it. Whatever the circumstances affecting the first body, whether it is in prison or not, whether it is in discomfort or comfort, whether it is surrounded by evidences of wealth and power or by poverty, this second body remains uninfluenced. In the practice of non-identifying, we begin to make this second body. And in fact, everything the work teaches is connected with this goal. It is said that a person who is always making requirements is always unhappy. This making requirements is like wanting the weather to be in a certain way, wanting other people to treat us in a certain way, having certain strong positionality about how things should be from the point of view of the ego. This is what it means, making requirements. It is said that a person who is always making requirements is always unhappy. What does it mean, making requirements? It means that your happiness depends on certain outer things being right, according to how you think they should be right. You don't like these people. You don't like these circumstances. You object to this or that, and so on. In such a case, you are making requirements, and your happiness will depend on outer things which, if they are not what you consider right, will plunge you into depression and negativity. Such a person has no inner state sufficiently developed, that is, no second body, to make it possible for him or her to be independent of the ever-changing conditions of life. It may surprise you to be told that you can often find happiness when everything is going wrong by practicing the work. You know that it has been said that everything that happens in life is a means and not an end. But have you thought what this signifies? Whatever the circumstances you are in, they can be taken from the work point of view as a means for non-identifying. Do you see what is meant? People take life as an end, and they do things in life from this point of view. They always seek results. They work for results. If they encounter failure, they are rendered miserable. But in this work, we are told not to work for results, but whatever we do, to practice non-identifying and self-remembering. Now, if your happiness depends on the praise of other persons, you are a machine. If your happiness depends on making money, again, you are a machine. Because you may lose money and destroy yourself. If your happiness depends on people treating you rightly according to your picture of yourself, surely something is wrong. To be always making accounts, which arise out of making requirements, cannot possibly be a source of inner peace of mind. To be always thinking that things are not as you wish them can only make you continually unhappy and negative. It is you yourself who have to awaken and have to hold in yourself the secret of being happy. And this holding means sealing yourself from the effects that outside events, outside conditions have hitherto mechanically had on you. All of us have acquired absurdly typical ways of behaving towards people and outer conditions. It is just here that one can separate oneself by noticing through self-observation how one is reacting to the moment. Yet, it is well worth just noticing this, and often during each day. Now, in connection with all this, which you have already heard very often, I would like tonight to speak briefly once more about pictures, roles, and attitudes. When a man or a woman has a strong picture of themselves, they are liable to be vexed by life. A picture of oneself is a fixed form of imagination about oneself. I'll read this again. A picture of oneself is a fixed form of imagination about oneself. I used to think myself a good boy. I need not say that it was long time ago. It was quite definitely a picture of myself. Naturally, being a good boy, I could never tell a lie, and naturally, of course, I told a good many lies. I could not see the dark side of myself, what I actually was, but was kept on one side through the influence of this picture. You will be able to see that by having this picture of myself, I told more lies than needed. Everything false arouses its opposite. Now you know that we have to accept the opposite side of ourselves, or the dark side, which simply means the side that we are not properly conscious of and do not accept consciousness is light. What we are not properly conscious of is dark to us, i.e., in obscurity. Yeah, this is very much the Jungian making the unconscious conscious, and whatever we are not aware of, it has power over us. What we are not properly conscious of is dark to us, i.e., in obscurity. A great deal of work has to be done for many years just exactly on this point. This is a very useful place to work on because it brings into the light of consciousness, through self-observation, knowledge of yourself that contradicts the pictures of yourself that have hitherto had power over you. It would be marvelous if our pictures fell away. A picture of oneself shuts out any reality. It is a picture and not what we really are. This picture prevents us from accepting sides of ourselves that do not agree with our pictures of ourselves. In consequence, we get divided into a light and a dark side, and this creates great disharmony. One can see people living all time in a picture of themselves and being constantly vexed or surprised. The next point is roles. Everyone has typical roles that he plays. A person probably has 5 or 6 roles that he uses for ordinary life. Now, it is wrong to say that people use these roles. The right way of putting it is that these roles use people. Let us say an innkeeper once entertained royalty. This forms a role, and he can never stop talking from this role, which is like a gramophone record. Gramophone. I remember once that a question was asked in one of the earlier meetings in London as to how it is that people who in ordinary life seem to be at ease and talk a great deal become silent in the atmosphere of the work. One reason is that because they cannot use their ordinary life roles. They can, so to speak, turn nothing on and therefore do not know where they are. Now this means we live in some kind of artificial state. When you talk to a man with a lot of roles, you get an impression that he is not there just as you do when you talk to people who have very strong pictures of ourselves. The third point is attitudes. Pictures, roles, and attitudes prevent us from any real understanding of ourselves or of our lives, and they all make us dependent on outer conditions. A man or a woman full of pictures, roles, or attitudes cannot form second body. He cannot get behind himself, cannot separate himself. How then is this to be remedied? It is only remedied by gradually seeing pictures, by becoming aware of one's roles, by becoming conscious of one's mechanical attitudes. So it is necessary to observe oneself. Attitudes are very easily formed by upbringing. You are taught that this point of view is right, and therefore you have an attitude laid down from an early age. You may, for instance, have been brought up amongst anarchists and think that they are right. How easily our psychology can be seized hold of and spoiled by outer things. Now, how can a man be happy in himself when he is full of unconscious roles, of pictures and acquired attitudes that act on him all day? Realizing this, it is well worth while in the great discipline of self-observation to notice very carefully what vexes you, what destroys such happiness as you are capable of experiencing. When you have made a good observation, try to find out whether it is due to a picture of yourself that was not satisfied by the behavior of someone, or a role that you turn on that met with no praise, or an attitude that was completely useless. How often I have heard it said in the early work to myself and to other people, "You have a wrong attitude. You are taking things in the wrong way owing to your attitude." As you know, attitudes are probably always negative attitudes from which we judge things and people. To be free, to begin to see things a little more as they really are, to begin to see other people a little more as they really are. How is this possible if we are full of pictures and attitudes that make us blind? How can we possibly imagine we can make simple relationships if we turn on our typical roles and boast? It was once said, try to notice when you are talking from attitudes and try to notice when you are talking from roles. If you cannot do this, try to notice it in other people who are doing the same. All these things belong to external psychology, to the acquired personality, which we have to make passive through self-observation and the insight and understanding that results from it. The outer psychology must be eventually controlled by the inner psychology. This is reversal. This is the formation of a second organized body, an organized psychological body composed of finer matters than the physical body. The beginning is self-observation and the memory and insight that arise from it. Through this, we begin to form a new inner psychology that looks at the outer psychology, second body. Through this, we begin to be more and more independent of the outer psychology and what is happening to it. So we begin to understand what true happiness depends on. So I will stop here. There's one more chapter on the second body, going deeper. He alludes to what is sometimes called in AA the ruthless inventory of oneself. So becoming aware of one's 5 or 6 roles, becoming the role of being a therapist, being a boyfriend, being a friend, being a boss. It's totally fine to have these roles. It's just that we identify with them. We feel I am that. I am the therapist. I am the boyfriend. I am this. Yeah. Also, it's important to discover these attitudes that have been laid down in childhood. These attitudes, I guess that's in my terminology or more current terminology, these are the messages that we have received or we have developed from our experience of having raised up in an unconscious environment by unconscious people in an unconscious society. And so we have developed some deeply ingrained subconscious beliefs that have also underlying emotional energetic component. Sometimes call them limiting identity or deficiency story identity. It's really important. These are in the shadow. It's really important to discover them because they are extremely sensitive and they are a constant source of misery. And what I mean by these attitudes or deficiency stories is like, there's something wrong with me. I cannot be myself. It's not safe to love. It's not safe to trust people. I'm unlovable. I can't handle life. I need someone to tell me what to do. So these are not just simple thoughts. These are imprints. So part of the work is to get more and more conscious. And, as we get more and more conscious, it's not that now it's all getting very groovy and we have lasting happiness and, you practice a little bit of mindfulness and it's all perfect now. No. As we become more and more conscious, more aware, now we are going to see all this craziness and contradictions and opposing programs and inner lies and the imprints from childhood and the transmission of beliefs from our ancestors. So we begin to see all of this, and that's uncomfortable. Actually, the more conscious we are, the more we realize the craziness of the inner world and this purgatory hell of the psychology we have. So being conscious and waking up is just the first step. The next step is dying, meaning all this stuff, as we become aware, all this stuff, the accounts, the attitudes, the justification, the self-justification, the judgments, all of this, what Gurdjieff called dogs, many dogs, we need to starve them. Yeah. So all of these patterns, through seeing them thoroughly, not identifying with them, they will gradually diminish. Some of them are very strong, especially trauma-related stuff. So just seeing them is not enough. One may need to do some somatic shadow work to really get in there deep into the file. All right, so stay tuned. Feel free to share any comments based on your observation or any questions or topic of interest for you. Ciao.